We are live approximately 48 hours after the Bears return to sole possession of first place in the NFC North with another come-from-behind victory. We're going to break down that dramatic win over the Vikings. We're going to provide some early previews of next game against the Steelers and maybe Aaron Rodgers, discuss the impending return of Pro Bowl cornerback Jalen Johnson, and take a global look at what the Bears have to do to maintain first place or at least secure a wild card spot. I'm John Buffone, and welcome to Buffone 55.
Doug Buffone was a bear. He was a great LB. And when he went on the air, he said stuff without a scare.
This defense sucks. You are a professional team. Act like one, for God's sakes.
One of the greats. Buffone was a bear. He was a Chicago Bear. Now at the barroom for year 9, knowing winning is the bottom line. John Buffone continues the legacy. He's got Doug's pedigree.
If you look at this team and this quarterback and this coach, if it's not going to be now, when?
And John does it with two pros, Alyssa Barbieri and Danny Shimon. Buffone 55 years old bear, covering all the team's affairs. Buffone 55 years old bear, covering all the team's affairs.
Hello again and welcome to Buffone 55. I am your host, John Buffone, and you know what? I don't know what it is because traditionally I am not someone that yells at the TV during a football game. I don't get overly animated. Maybe it's just coming from years of disappointment and just expecting the worst, and I'm usually pretty calm, cool, and collected when I watch the game on TV. But something about the 2025 Bears has brought out the beast in me, and every time something happens, I am standing up, I am screaming, I'm looking like a moron. I don't know if it's the Ben Johnson effect, I don't know if it's the Caleb Williams effect, I don't know if it's that every game the Bears seem to be this close to losing and then somehow they pull out a win, but I am screaming at the TV in 2025 and I'm not sure why, but I'd like to get that conversation kicked off with my co-host. First off, help me welcome Alyssa Barbieri, the Midwest managing editor of USA Today's Football Wires, including Bears Wire, and also Danny Shimon, the Barroom's lead analyst and draft evaluator of potential Bears prospects at Shimon Draft Scout on YouTube. Alyssa, over at Bears Wire, you wrote that, quote, Chicago has established themselves as the comeback kings of the NFL, where they have a league best 5 comeback drives this season. With that being said, how's your blood pressure doing?
You know, at some point, I think I'm going to get used to these kinds of wins, but I would be lying if I said my poor heart wasn't put through the ringer again. I mean, this game was almost identical to their week 1 loss. You know, they get the early lead. They can't necessarily put them away because they can't score touchdowns. And then the Vikings mounted a fourth quarter comeback. Only this time the Bears were able to mount a comeback of their own. Shout out to the special teams. And I think it just goes to show you just how much this team has changed since week 1. You know, these Ben Johnson-led Bears continue to prove time and time again that they can win games, especially when it's ugly. And it's going to take some getting used to, especially on the poor ticker.
Danny, how about you? You got a doctor's appointment scheduled anytime soon?
Cardiac. I'm sorry, man. They're going to give me a heart attack by the time. And they're the cardiac bears. That's what they are. And I just can't picture you not yelling, John, up until this season. I just always picture you as going nuts and that vein popping. But the fact that these Bears have you up and yelling, that's a testament to what they're doing. But yeah, I mean, talk about. I make up swear words I've never heard of before. I combine words. I think my poor kids, like, they hear me and they know not to come into the room. The Bears game is on, and it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. But man, 7-3, can't knock it. Another win. Let's keep this train rolling.
Absolutely, and we're going to look ahead to the Steelers here in a little bit, but we got to talk about this game because it's just another chapter in this weird saga of the 2025 Chicago Bears. Let's break this game down. We're going to start with the offense starts slow in the first quarter. The first 3 drives were punts, and by the way, 1 run each on the first 2 drives. I thought they were going to try to establish the run game a little bit more. They failed to do that early on. Meanwhile, the Bears defense benefited by J.J. McCarthy. I'm sorry, Alyssa, I know that's your boy, but being erratic at best for the majority of the game, missing throws left and right. The Vikings have a quarterback issue right now. Not to say that a young quarterback can't get it together eventually, but he looked pretty bad for the majority of that game. With 13:20 to go in the second quarter, the Bears have their best drive of the game, 15 plays, 72 yards with a very methodical drive. Only 1 explosive play over 10 yards, which was, I believe, a pass to Luther Burden. Danny, can you take us through that second quarter and the touchdown and how that all kind of came to be?
Yeah, to talk about jump starting an offense and look no further than Luther Burden, who I think is a burgeoning star, up and coming here in this league as his career progresses here with the Bears. But the one play that we picked out here initially, it shows things that I've been yelling about, right? Talking about Caleb under center with play action, right? Freezing that second level defender, and then again talk about rhythm and timing. Look at his back foot. As soon as his back foot hits, Caleb drops back. He knows where he's looking at. It looks like Loveland is his first read, but he's got that linebacker in the middle, so kind of scares him off of that one. And as soon as that back foot hits, one hit, bam, the ball is out before Burden even turns for the out of his break. That ball is on its way to Luther Burden. That's what I'm talking about in terms of this is what I love seeing with Caleb under center. No shotgun and all that stuff. Under center, play action. 3-step, 4-step drop. Back foot hits, bam. He's got an idea where he's going with that football. Ball's out. A laser to Luther Burden, a big gainer, first down, and that kind of starts that drive there rolling.
Yeah, that, like you said, probably the best drive up to what was the most effective they looked up to that point. Alyssa, Kyle Monangai scores a touchdown. Can you talk about how he kind of compares to other running backs? Because before the season and going into the draft, the Bears fans are thinking, what are they going to do with the running back position? Who are they going to draft? They got sniped during the draft. They're going to take this guy. They're going to take this guy. And then they end up with Monangai in the 7th round. Can you talk about how he kind of compares to other rookie running backs?
Yeah, I mean, the Bears' lone touchdown of the game came courtesy of Monangai. I think he's quietly been one of the more productive rookie running backs and in a secondary role to DeAndre Swift. And when you look at Monangai's yards per carry this season, and this is a minimum of 60 carries, he ranks 3rd with 4.7 yards per carry behind Trevion Henderson and Omarion Hampton. And he's even ahead of Ashton Genty, who, we thought the Bears, really were really wanted in the first round of the draft. And considering that all those guys are 2nd and 1st round picks, respectively, it's not bad company for the 7th round rookie.
Danny, you've been a Monangai for a long time here. So can you talk about how he's been progressing in this offense? For the beginning of the season, you've been calling for more touches for Kyle Monangai. How have you seen him evolve and progress in this offense?
Yeah, and he's playing that role that I was kind of calling for, and that Ben Johnson wants. He wants that in between the tackles, downhill runner, the guy with power, be able to and good contact power, contact balance, bounce off defenders, get those extra yards after contact. And he's done that. He's a productive back coming out of Rutgers the last 2 years, over 1,200 yards. We really produced there in the Big Ten. And he's a physical kid, and I love about him is this kid's got ball security. This guy has not fumbled in his career at Rutgers so far. Knock on wood, hasn't fumble here with the Bears, and he's a perfect complement to DeAndre Swift. Swift is more of that, outside zone, get the guy, get him on in the open there, one cut and hit it upfield using his speed. But Monangai, I love when they run power game with him in terms of pulling guards or even that dual blocking ability, and let him just get downhill and Blores had run through defenders. There was a play at the goal line there. He ran over Josh Metellus, who's one of the the more physical players in the on the Vikings defensive secondary / linebacker. He's a multifaceted player there, but he just ran right over Metellus without any problems. If you guys are Good Morning Football fans, and Kyle Brandt runs that Angry Runs segment last week, he won it. Kyle Monanga won it for what he did versus the Bengals. So powerful in between the tackles runner, great compliment to DeAndre Swift. I think this is a guy that's going to continue to get better. The only thing with Monanga, he tried to go either east and west. That's not his game versus the Vikings, and he got dropped for a loss. Kyle, just keep going straight ahead. Don't go east and west. That's not your game, my friend. Just go downhill, and you'll continue to see success there.
Run through them, not around them. I like that mentality. That's how I like my running backs. But let's talk a little bit about the Vikings' next series. J.J. McCarthy throws a pick. Danny, you also got a little review on this tape as well. Alyssa, avert your eyes. I know this is your guy from Michigan, but still.
Thanks, JJ. It works out for me now, so I'm good. I got a national championship.
He's still helping you out. He got you a national championship.
You got a ring?
It's hometown.
You got a ring on your finger there? A championship ring?
That's my first. That's my championship.
Okay.
He got you a championship, and now he's helping the Bears out. You can't ask for much more than that. I understand.
Wait, so I'm not sure if this is J.J. McCarthy or if this is his alter ego, who he calls Nine. So we'll take a look and see which one this is here. But this is Kevin Byard doing Kevin Byard stuff. He's a wily veteran, does a great job of using his savviness to kind of, and his knowledge over the years to kind of, lull and pull this interception out of J.J. McCarthy here. If you see, as that play hits, Bears aren't in a too high safety look. There's a little play action there. He comes up, sees that fullback coming out into the field, knows he's not really a threat, and then he reads the eyes of J.J. McCarthy, and then just drifts back, and falls into that passing window. McCarthy had no idea he was there, and he just plucks the ball, fifth interception, leading the league with 5 interceptions. Kevin Byard has been a hell of a pickup, and I think he's a prime candidate to be extended there, hopefully a contract extension for that veteran. But another thing that we didn't see there is I want to highlight was Gray Jarrett. We talked about what Dennis Allen likes to do up front. Him and the other defensive tackle, I believe it might have been Billings, had a little a twist stunt there in the middle. Jennings comes, Gray Jarrett comes around. It gets to the knees of J.J. McCarthy there. It doesn't allow him to get in a full set base, get power in that throw. And again, Byard just kind of lulls him into that throw, picks it off. Big turnover for the Bears.
We're talking about takeaways, Alyssa, and, there's been a lot of criticism thrown the Bears' way as far as their defense, but you know what? They take the ball away quite a bit. Can you talk about the state of the Bears and the takeaways this season?
Yeah, I mean, the Bears have led the NFL in takeaways for weeks now, but they remain atop the standings with 22 with a league best 15 interceptions and 7 fumble recoveries. And Kevin Byard, Danny, like you were saying, he's been a huge part of that. He's leading the NFL with 5 interceptions, but he is not alone. Also tied for the second most are Nashawn Wright and Tremaine Edmonds, along with Jacksonville's Devin White. They all have 4. But, their upcoming opponent, the Steelers, they've also been good at taking the ball away. And I know we're going to talk about them a little later down the line. And they have the second most takeaways with 18. So that's going to be something to watch here. But still, the Bears are averaging 2.2 takeaways per game, including 2 in their last 3 games. Averaging 2 in their last 3 games. And they're even better when they're playing at Soldier Field, totaling 2.5. So that certainly bodes well for Sunday. It also helps that the Bears have done a really good job protecting the football as well. And they've only turned the ball over 6 times this season, which is the second best in the NFL.
Well, unfortunately, the offense had to settle. They gained like 5 yards on the next drive and had to settle for a field goal. But then there was another J.J. McCarthy interception, this time to Nashawn Wright. Danny, I believe you have another breakdown of this. This is an awesome play. Yeah.
Again, this is McCarthy or if it's 9. We're not sure yet, right? So we're going to just go ahead by that. But this is just a really bad read by McCarthy here. First of all, it looked like he predetermined he was going to go to Jordan Anderson outside if he had one-on-one coverage. And if you run this play here real quick, as you see, the better option would have been that inside route ran there by Naylor, who's wide open. But instead, he tries to go to Jordan Anderson there in the corner, one-on-one, right, obviously with his length and his long legs. Makes up some ground there and does a great job of recovering, really taking the ball away from Jordan Anderson, becoming that great defender there. and goes up and makes that great interception there. Of course, his fourth interception, like Alyssa said, Bears have 3 of the top 5 interceptors in the NFL, and again on their defense here. So, but again, Wright doing a great job of staying in phase, running with Addison. A bad read in my opinion by McCarthy. Had a wide open guy coming over the middle, decides to go one-on-one to Jordan Addison, and Wright picks him up. And that's a huge play because that was right before the half. And that obviously the Vikings come away with no points there. The Bears are able to preserve, I should say, their 10-3 lead going into halftime.
And Alyssa, obviously this interception meant a lot to Wright, and then more details came out about that during the game and after the game. For those who may not have heard, can you kind of fill us in on that?
Yeah, this game carried a lot of emotional weight for Nahshon Wright. Not only is he facing his former team for a second time, but he also played shortly after his former coach John Beam was shot and killed last week. Wright started his college career at Laney College of Last Chance U fame before he transferred to Oregon State. But listening to Wright talk about Beam, like he posted on social media, it was clear that he lost more than just a football coach. He lost a mentor and a father figure, and that's something that he really had to settle with and deal with and go out in the football field and perform. And, he shared on social media about the impact that Beam had on his life, specifically how he had saved him and his younger brother after their father was killed, and served as a father figure for both him and his younger brother. And after recording his 4th interception of the season and the second against the Vikings this season, Wright got emotional, and the cameras caught that moment, where Wright was embracing defensive backs coach Al Harris on the sideline after the pick. And I think it was just a really emotional moment in the game. And it also helped, like Danny said, the Bears preserved that first half lead, but just, that was a really big moment for Wright to get that pick.
Yeah, incredibly emotional, very powerful moment there. Something that kind of elevates beyond football, but just a lot of different emotions going on in that moment. But let's jump into the second half of that game. In the second half, the Bears get back-to-back field goals. The first one was a 54-yarder. The second one was from 36 yards. Let's delve into that second drive because Chicago had back-to-back explosive plays. Danny, you're going to take us through all 3 of these. Back, I guess.
Yeah, the first play, obviously, we're going back to Luther Burden, and I love the design here. I love the read here by Caleb. As we started here, we see the Vikings are showing 5 at the line of scrimmage here, are going to bring pressure, with cornerback Murphy off the edge there. And Caleb does a great job of anticipating what's going to happen. They kind of reread it already, and does a great job of being able to get that ball off to Luther Burden. As you see here, Colson, first of all, he chips, and then he releases to become a blocker. That's a nice way, and that's a rule of thumb for quarterbacks. If you're going to get blitz, typically throw into the blitz, right? Meaning throw to the side of the defender just vacates, and that's perfectly designed here. They read it pre-snap, they anticipated it, blocking downfield, with Loveland and also with Roma Dunze getting down. And the one thing I've noticed in watching these replays of these games is that more and more of these receivers are blocking downfield. They're getting much, much better, whether it's Luther Burden, whether it's DJ Moore, whether it's Roma Dunze here, Loveland, a tight end, so on and so forth. Ben Johnson had a motto, no block, no rock. And these guys have gotten that message loud and clear. And the more you watch these Bears play on offense, the more you see receivers downfield, finishing blocks, making sure they maintain their blocks, giving their guys an ability to get down and get more yards. So love that play, the design, the recognition by Caleb, saw the blitz, heard it pre-snap, whatever, and then called it, got it off to Burden, and Burden, a big chunk yard there, big play there, gets that first down, gets that drive moving.
So going through, and there's a second play, I believe, there, or another play you're going over, right?
Yeah, this is the Caleb run, and again, this is here. Vikings showing 5 at the line of scrimmage, right? Bears are in max protection here with 2 tight ends. Vikings end up sending 6 defenders. Okay, the one thing I go and looking back and forth here, last week talked a little about Darnell Wright being a little bit consistent. I'm not sure what he does here. He just basically lets Jalen Redmond go. I'm not sure why. And then that basically, kind of blows up the play for Caleb. And Caleb has been doing this more and more. And these are dagger plays for defense, guys. Nothing kills a defender more than, you've got it called right. You've got it, they got the guy pretty much, pressured. You got it right covered. And the quarterback just kind of, finds a way to make something out of nothing. And Caleb has been doing this more and more, using his athletic ability, his feet. He's got the uncanny ability to be able to kind of elude at the first defender and then find an escape hatch and get big chunks of yards. And I don't know if it's something that's been drilled in him by the coach's staff or it's something that he's just started to develop here as he's watching tape with Ben Johnson. but you love seeing this, right? You love him, getting out of a bad situation, that could have been a sack last year. Instead, this year he sees it, recognizes it, bam, he's out of there, uses his legs, big chunk. And again, these are dagger plays for defense. They're just they take the soul and the breath out of a defense when they give up big plays like that. When they figure to have everything lined up right, covered right, pressured right.
And he can get it done with his arms too, right? On this final play, another strike to DJ Moore.
Yeah, this was again. Caleb under center, right? And we're talking about, play action. And the first thing I want to do is, if we can go back and play it real quick, Aldo, is take a look at the defenders, those linebackers. Look at their first step. It's always one step downhill, right? Because of the play action. And this is why I say these are very important. In this particular case, Cashman, the linebacker, takes a couple of steps to his right, and we'll see in this next angle here, because of the play action, because he thinks it might be a run play. And that opens up a slight window, still a tight window, that Caleb just throws a laser into DJ Moore there. And without that play action, Blakeman doesn't take that, or Cashman doesn't take that a couple steps to his right, doesn't open up that passing window. And again, he still does a good job of recovering, but not in time to get his hand on the football. And again, all set up by Caleb under center, play action, hits it. Now, DJ Moore made it a little more difficult than it should have been. We're using it every single part of his body, looks like, to kind of, hold up that ball in. But this is the things that I was going to show in terms of rhythm and timing, right? Play action under center, suck up that second defender, get him out of position, find those windows, hit the receivers, bam, big chunk plays there.
And despite the chunk plays, though, Danny, that drive stalled in the red zone. Alyssa, if the Bears are playing on an 80-yard field, they'd be in good shape. Unfortunately, it's 100 yards. So can you take us through what the story is with the Bears offense in the red zone?
Yeah, when you look at this Bears offense, they rank in the top 10 of most statistical categories, but their biggest struggle has been scoring touchdowns in the red zone and capitalizing on those opportunities. And it was a big reason why the Vikings were able to hang around for as long as they did and eventually take that short-lived lead. They scored just one touchdown in this game and had to settle for 4 field goal attempts before the game winner. And they left plenty of points out there on the field. They're moving the ball. They're just not finishing drives with touchdowns. And when you look at it this season, the Bears are scoring touchdowns on just 54.29% of trips inside the 20-yard line. And that doesn't even account for just outside the red zone, which are also important opportunities for them. The good news is the Bears are better in the red zone at home than on the road. They're scoring touchdowns on 60% of trips compared to 50. And while Chicago was brutal in the red zone against the Vikings, they're actually scoring touchdowns on 66.67% of trips inside the 20. So in the last 3 games. So the Bears offense is only scratching the surface of their potential. If they can just start capitalizing in the red zone and just outside of it, this could be a very dangerous football team.
Yeah, you got to be able to put 7 on the board sometimes, especially when you start playing some of the better teams that are coming up on this schedule. Moving right along into this game, the Vikings offense then comes in to close the third quarter with a 3-and-out. We move to the fourth quarter, and all of a sudden the Bears start piling up the mistakes. Caleb Williams is sacked twice, the Bears punt, and the special teams commit the first of 2 awful plays, really. The first is allowing a 43-yard punt return. Miles Price's return energizes the Vikings, and the Vikings score a touchdown. And just 2 plays later, Danny, take us through this return.
And this is where I was starting to have deja vu, John. I'm like, this is going to be week 1 all over again. We're going to give this 9/JJ McCarthy another comeback victory, and it all started with this punt return. And if you take a look here at a wide angle, obviously it's just lane integrity, right? The gunner at the top there, I believe that's Jonathan Owens, 36. Takes a bad angle, doesn't maintain his integrity in terms of setting that edge, funneling the returner back to inside to his guys. Whatever caused him to do that's just a bonehead. And you can see it there at the end of the play. Owens, hits his hands on his helmet. He knew that he messed that up. So if he had just maintained his lane integrity and kind of, did his job, if you will, that shouldn't have been that big of a return. But unfortunately, it wasn't. That's a big return, and that now starts the comeback that the Vikings launch here. And this is where I started making up swear words.
Alyssa, what can you tell us more about the punt coverage this year?
Yeah, when you look at this Bears team punt coverage, they're actually improved from last season, just a little bit. They're allowing 40.7 punt return yards, which ranks 12th compared to 41.8 yards in 2024. It's slight, but it's an improvement nonetheless, which we're seeing a lot of that with Ben Johnson as head coach. But the Bears are 8th worst in the most punt yards allowed in road games, which tracks with Miles Price's big return in Minneapolis. Luckily, Chicago gets the Steelers at Soldier Field this week, so hopefully their luck will turn around.
And later on, I believe the next play, this is whenever the blood started pumping and the sweat started pouring out. The Bears' next possession results in a missed 45-yard field goal by Cairo Santos, and you're thinking, oh my God, it's going to happen again.
I start swearing in Spanish. I don't speak Spanish. And Cairo Santos, I believe, is from Brazil, so he's saying something in Portuguese, and so there's a lot of different words going on throughout. And I'm not going to say the words that were coming out of the Buffone basement, but the Vikings and Bears then exchange punts. When the Vikings get the ball back with 3:14 left in the game, they mount a 10-play drive. 4 of those plays were explosive plays. 2 of them to tight end TJ Hawkinson, a 21-yard pass and an 11-yarder. That touchdown was a 15-yarder from JJ to Jordan Addison. Danny, what happened on this play? Yeah, I just think, Bears are in a zone coverage here. I just think Nashawn Wright got preoccupied with Justin Jefferson. He was on him there initially. They motioned over Jordan Addison, and I think he was just preoccupied with Justin Jefferson, even though he had inside, help in terms of the safety and the linebacker there as well. They had like a little bit of a box or a triangle there, if you will, surrounding Justin Jefferson. And I think he just really kind of lost his depth there. And he actually makes a solid recovery. He was, within like a couple of inches of kind of getting his hands on that football as well because of his length and, he got the long limbs. He makes up ground quickly, but just wasn't there in time. And that's a touchdown, of course. And then the crowd goes crazy. And then, the Vikings jump out ahead there.
And we all know what happened next, though. You can't give the Bears a chance with under a minute, apparently. I'm still getting used to that, where the Bears aren't out of the game until the game's over. And so we all know.
Cometh,
yeah. Devin Duvernay returns the ensuing kick 61 yards to the Vikings 40-yard line. The Bears move the ball 9 yards, and Cairo Santos nails the 48-yard game-winning kick. Alyssa, listen. Cairo Santos has been getting a lot of flack recently, and I don't want to turn it. He kicked the game winner, but there is a lot of criticism going his way. He doesn't have the leg, and it doesn't help whenever you have kickers in the NFL now, where if you get it to midfield, they're basically in field goal range. And if you're Cairo Santos, you're hoping that he has the leg for a 48-yarder or 50-yarder. But can you kind of take us through some of his stats and how he's been doing?
Yeah, Santos has come under plenty of scrutiny, and I think, it's deserved. He's missed 4 field goals through the first 11 weeks. And, for reference, during his time, I went back and kind of looked at his seasons with the Bears and how many field goals he missed. He missed 4 field goals in an entire season back in 2021 and 2024. And we still have 7 games left. Now, it would be really great if Santos was perfect during that span, but I don't know if we could really count on that. But still, at this point of the season, there are 7 kickers who have missed 5 or more field goals. So at least Santos isn't among the worst. Again, improvement. Although it's safe to say a couple of those kickers are now out of jobs. I think the biggest frustration, though, with Santos is that he can't be counted on to consistently hit those long field goals, John, like you were talking about. Yes, he did hit a season-long 54-yarder against the Vikings, which I have to give him props for that. But how many times have we seen one of his kicks fall just short, or seen his kick blocked because the trajectory is lower because he doesn't have the leg? And now Jake Moody was just signed off the Bears practice squad by the Commanders this week. So they don't have Moody as that backup plan. So there's no doubt that Santos is going to finish the season, health permitting.
Danny, I know Aldo's going to love all this special teams talk, but real quick, how confident are you in Cairo Santos going into the back end of the year? And the way that the Bears are winning games are obviously not blowing anyone out, and they're probably going to need some clutch kicks, and maybe clutch kicks that are beyond 50 yards. How do you feel about that going into the back end of the season?
Yeah, obviously we know that the area he struggles in are these long kicks, right? Anything 55 and beyond is going to be maybe hit or miss here for Cairo. But he is, if I'm not mistaken, guys, he is the most accurate kicker in Bears history. You guys remember we were on that kicking carousel not too long ago, and I don't want to go back on that kicking carousel. And I think Cairo Santos is a reliable kicker. He has shown to be clutch. Now he did miss a game this year, maybe 2 games, I believe 2 games this year because of an injury. So maybe some of those 4 misses are something to do with that, either prior to the missing those games or even after. We'll see. But he's the guy that has come up clutch and and when he's needed. So again, distance worries me. He doesn't have the strongest leg, but his kickoffs have improved, right? So, comparing what happened, week one. So I think that's a positive there. And 54, he nailed it. And even Ben Johnson was confident because when the Bears after that Duvernay return, they didn't pass the ball. They just ran it. Johnson, as long as they got 9-10 yards or close to that first down, they're going to kick it. So, he has confidence in him. So I just think that, he's our best option right now. If you want to start maybe looking for some guys in the offseason, you could do that. I just, I signed an extension about, I think it was this past offseason. So the guy's a veteran, he's been clutch when needed. Yes, doesn't have a long leg, it doesn't have a big strong leg, but I think I'm going to ride with Santos, and I do not want to go on that kicking carousel.
Yeah, I think for the rest of the year, you got to ride with him. My concern is he was able to kick that ball indoors against the Vikings as they play outdoors at Soldier Field, and trust me, I was out there a couple weeks ago. That wind was whipping through, and so if they need a big kick in strong weather and they need a big strong leg to kick it against the wind, I get a little scared with that, but I guess time will tell. Hopefully they start, scoring touchdowns instead of needing field goals. So we'll see how things progress. But on a brighter note, Jalen Johnson could be coming back soon. And so, Alyssa, I'll pose this question to you first. How much of the Bears' problems with their defense, or I should say their pass defense, can be solved with the return of Jalen Johnson, because they have just been decimated by injury in the secondary?
Yeah, I mean, he's not a pass rusher, so I don't know how much he could do in that regard, because the pass rush has some issues. They really need to get after the quarterback. But, I mean, if he were to return this week, we know they activated his 21-day practice window, so he will be coming back by the end of the month. But if they were able to get him back, especially for this game, it would be huge. He's a lockdown quarterback in the NFL. He hasn't even played a full game this season. He played just that first half against the Lions. And you look at what this defense has been able to accomplish without him, in terms of interceptions and taking the ball away. And I think that his return would elevate them immediately. And if Aaron Rodgers is going to be playing in this game, I would feel a heck of a lot better if Jalen Johnson is out there.
Danny, how much of a shot in the arm can Jalen Johnson be to this defense?
He's not going to hurt, man. He's not going to hurt. I mean, if you get him back and you get Kyler Gordon back, and now you add that into that defensive backfield, we touched on this a little bit last week, with Johnson, Gardner Johnson there as well, because Gordon and Johnson could be both kind of chess pieces in which Dennis Allen can get a little exotic, a little creative with those guys. Yeah, they're not traditional hands in the ground defensive end pass rusher, but they can also help affect the pass rush and generate some pressure on these quarterbacks and maybe produce some sacks or even just quarterback hits or whatnot, because they're both in terms of line up in multiple spots. You can disguise your coverages, but what Johnson does specifically is Allen wants a cornerback to be able to reroute receivers at the line of scrimmage, get physical with them, throw off the timing and the rhythm of an offense. And Johnson can do that. He can come in there, he can be physical at the point of attack and be a cover corner for you there. So I think he helps there. And I think that eventually will trickle down to the front seven when you have a corner like Johnson getting physical, rerouting receivers, throwing off timings of quarterbacks, giving those guys up front a little bit more time to get to the quarterback.
All right, let's talk about the game coming up. Let's talk the Pittsburgh Steelers. Alyssa, do you have any injury updates for Aaron Rodgers? Because a lot of Bears fans, for one reason or another, are very interested in whether or not Aaron Rodgers is going to play in this game. What do we know so far?
Well, it's certainly looking like the Bears might find a way to avoid playing Aaron Rodgers, who's dealing with a left wrist injury. He has a fracture. On Monday, NFL Network's Ian Rappaport indicated that whether Rodgers plays is going to depend on whether this is an injury that can be exacerbated by him playing or if he can grip a football. He basically predicted 50-50 for Rodgers on Sunday. But there was further context provided on Tuesday, which was reassuring for the Steelers and not so much for Bears fans, which indicated that Rodgers won't need surgery on his left wrist. But his status is still up in the air, and NFL Network's Tom Pelissero noted that Rodgers is, quote, pushing to play against Chicago because, of course, he is. While Rodgers isn't expected to practice on Wednesday, even if he doesn't practice at all this week, Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin said that Rodgers could play without practicing. So Point being, we're going to have to wait until kickoff on Sunday. But I think it would be obviously a huge break for the Bears if they were to somehow avoid Rodgers and they'd get Mason Rudolph, although, as we've seen, facing a backup quarterback isn't going to guarantee a win. Still, this Bears team has been about rewriting narratives with Ben Johnson. So, part of me is hoping that Aaron Rodgers plays because this is a narrative that needs to be rewritten. I think the Bears can beat Aaron Rodgers. They're going to have Caleb Williams out there now to perhaps we have another shootout. Now we'll see if they get the chance.
Yeah, Danny, listen, a lot of Bears fans want Aaron Rodgers to play because they feel like they need some finality to this feud, so to speak, with him saying he owns the Bears and him tormenting Bears fans for so long. The Bears fans are actually wanting to play Rodgers. And just from your point of view, is there an advantage for him playing, especially with a fractured left arm? Left wrist, I should say. He has shown maybe a little gun shy, throwing the ball and then trying to get out of the way, getting rid of the ball quick so he doesn't get hit. Also, taking snaps under center with a fractured wrist probably isn't going to be the most comfortable thing. Handing the ball off is going to have to be all right-handed stuff. What do you think? Should Bears fans want to see Aaron Rodgers in there, or do you want to see Mason Rudolph take the snaps on Sunday?
I am praying Aaron Rodgers plays this week. I want him to play. I want him to go in there with – he's got about a little hairline fracture on his wrist, and he's making a big deal like he's got a crack in his – he's going to be out there, and he's going to be – listen, he's old. He's not the same Aaron Rodgers. Is he still smart as hell? Yes, he is. Is he still going to be able to decipher your defense? Sure he can. Can he get rid of the ball quick enough? Sure he can. But if you watch, and I've watched Steelers football, he doesn't threaten the ball downfield a lot. And when he does throw the ball downfield, his accuracy is a little bit off now, right? And Alyssa, you touched on it. He's a little, he doesn't want to get hit. There's a lot of times where he kind of just throws the ball and kind of, tucks in. Like turtles in, if you will, and he's not mobile enough. And now, if you get a Jalen Johnson back, obviously we don't know if Jalen's coming back this week. But if you get some of that secondary, guys back, we don't know if TJ Edwards what's going to happen there. My biggest concern is the run game. You got to be able to stop the run. Jalen Warren, and those guys up front. If you can stop the run. Right. This offensive line for the Steelers has given up 33 sacks, guys. So they're not a very good offensive line in terms of pass protection. That's why he's cowering in and he's hiding a lot of times. So, but they could get to Aaron Rodgers. I don't want Mason. When Mason Rudolph came in last week, the offense actually looked better than when Rodgers was in there. So I don't want Mason Rudolph. I want Aaron Rodgers. I want to end this ownership claim once and for all. Slight crack in his wrist or not. Let's go out there. Let's end him like we ended Brett Favre's career and say goodbye and good riddance. And then the Bears get their 8th victory.
And Danny, you talked about that run game. Jalen Warren also got dinged up in their last game. He had an ankle injury. He might play, he might not, but he's not going to be at 100% either way. And it looks like you'd have a healthy dose of Kenneth Gainwell and then
don't
Caleb
fall asleep on Gainwell. Gainwell's a pretty sneaky, effective player there. He's a guy that's second on their team in terms of as a rusher with, I believe it was 244 yards rushing, and he's second on the team in receiving. He's a dual threat. He can hurt you in the passing game and the run game. He's got 5 touchdowns, so he's a playmaker out there. So don't let Kenneth Gainwell, lull you to sleep. He's a guy that's been making plays this year, and he's getting more of an opportunity. He was with the Eagles last year. He's getting more of an opportunity here with the Steelers. He can hurt you, and obviously we talked about the Bears in terms of some of their deficiencies as run defense. Again, Gainwell's a dual threat, passing and receiving. So keep an eye on number 14 there for the Steelers.
Yeah, and then they have the rookie Caleb Johnson, who's been a little bit of a disappointment, but he's kind of a change of pace back. Alyssa, I asked Danny, would you rather see Aaron Rodgers playing for the Steelers this weekend?
Oh, absolutely, yes. Yeah, like I said before, this Bears team, it feels like they are rewriting narratives that have plagued this team in the past, that they're a losing franchise. And I feel like this is one, this has to be the end of the chapter. Close the book. I don't want to hear about this again. I saw some of the comments from the chat about let's, end his career like they did with Brett Favre with Brett Favre. And I'm like, yeah, I would like it. I wouldn't hate that, So I'm also scared because of obviously, his success against the Bears. He knows this team. It's happening at Soldier Field. Part of me is like that. But, he is an older Aaron Rodgers. He's not the same Aaron Rodgers. We've seen how he's been playing this season. So I do think that I want Aaron Rodgers playing. I want the Bears to bring it to him. I want Caleb Williams to go out there and be his childhood idol. And let's go to 8-3.
I want him to play, but I'm terrified of playing him, I guess. It's just the mystique. And listen, I have a lot emotionally invested in this game. Like I said, I grew up in Pittsburgh. All of my friends are Steelers fans. And so not only is this going to be bragging rights for at least the next 4 years, because I was at the last game at Heinz Field when they had that really crappy, like unsportsmanlike conduct where the referee ran into the Bears player and they threw a flag and they ended up losing that game. I haven't lived that down yet. I was in I had some good connections, so I was in a luxury box watching that game, watching the Bears lose to the Steelers.
Luxury box guy over here.
Listen, that's only because
it's about who.
I've had it. I have had it.
Exactly what he would say to me too. So,
I bet you want that luxury box against the Giants, huh?
I would have loved a luxury box against the Giants. I was freezing, but at any rate, all of my friends are Steelers fans. Aaron Rodgers is now their quarterback, and if they lose this game, I'm never going to hear the end of it because I get so much crap from them anyway for being a Bears fan and how bad the Bears have been and how consistent the Steelers have been. Although they haven't won a playoff game in nearly a decade, they still are the model of consistency in the NFL, and I have a lot of respect for the Steelers. That's a really well-run organization, but I just won't live it down. If the Bears should win this game and they're at home and Aaron Rodgers is their quarterback, and this is potentially the last time the Bears ever play Aaron Rodgers, if he goes out on a win with that team against the Bears at home, I can't emotionally come back from that. So
everybody can say no, but you got to do something about it. In other words, what are you going to do about it?
You're gonna win. You're gonna blitz him and blitz him and blitz him until he takes himself out of the game. That's what I want to see. And Danny, you talked about their offensive line a little bit, but can you break down a little bit more about what the Bears there could be some cracks in that line that the Bears might be able to take advantage of?
Yeah, they have a pretty young offensive line in terms of left tackle Buffone. And right tackle Troy Fautanu was a first-round pick of theirs. But I think, like I said, they've given up 33 sacks so far this season. And again, now the Bears aren't a big pass rush team, but I think that, if this is why I think if he gets 2 out of the 3 guys back in terms of the injured TJ Edwards, Kyler Gordon, or Jalen Johnson, I think Johnson is a little bit of a reach there. But if Gordon and Edwards can come back, I think that will help fortify some of that run defense. And I think, again, with Gordon and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson out there, I think DA is going to get a little, creative in terms of his designs and pressures and disguises and all that stuff. And I think, once you start putting some, added pressure or some consistent pressure, I should say, on Aaron Rodgers, you'll see some of those balls being thrown up for air. He's already thrown 7 interceptions. And I think in his career, his worst season might have been 9. So he's always almost, he's almost there right now. So again, he's a guy that will put the ball up there, that doesn't really threaten down the football field. So, their one real deep threat is DK Metcalf. He's also a big, physical specimen as well. So, the cornerbacks are going to have their hands challenged, in terms of, that kind of physicality. And also Darnell Washington is a beast in terms of a tight end. He's more of a blocker, but he's also a guy, if he gets out on the flat, he can bulldozer over guys. So, just, keep it consistent, as they can stop the run game and make Aaron start, having to beat you. I know people are like, what are you guys talking about? Everybody's got Aaron Rodgers, fatigue or flashbacks or whatnot, or PTSD, if you will. But if you can make the Steelers one-dimensional and put the game in Aaron Rodgers' hands, I'm telling you, I don't think he can beat you at 41 with a little boo-boo in his left wrist and all that other stuff. So I think, as long as we get 2 of those 3 defenders back, I feel really, really confident.
All right. Well, I want to talk about the Steelers defense. And by the way, Mr. Shorty, thank you for the compliment there. I like that in the chat room. But at any rate, let's talk about the Steelers defense. One of the most expensive in the NFL, if not the most expensive in the NFL. But they are 28th in yards allowed. Just for context, the Bears are 27th. 13th in run defense, allowing 106 yards per game. Bears are 24th. And in the turnover takeaway race, the Bears are still in first, but the Steelers are in second. Alyssa, this is a defense that was thought to be a Super Bowl caliber defense going into the season, but it looks like the Bears might be able to establish a run game against them. Is that something that you would like to see early and often?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that should be the game plan heading in. A healthy, a really good run game is quarterback's best friend, and I think that that's where we've seen Caleb be really comfortable setting up the play action. We've seen that DeAndre Swift and Common guy can really get it going. They are the second best rushing attack in the NFL at this point of the season, so you should definitely lean on that. I know Ben Johnson's talked about having different game plans, and how you're going to attack a defense. There are multiple ways you look at also in total yards allowed. I mean, I think that the passing game might be a little bit more difficult, but I think that if you can really get that run game going early, get Caleb into a comfortable rhythm, that's going to be the key to success for the offense.
Danny, how should they attack the Steelers defense?
The Bears are a running team, guys. I've been saying it for a couple of weeks now, and the stats are now are proving that they're second in the league in rushing. Alyssa just kind of mentioned that right there. So play action, Caleb under center. I've been saying it over and over again. Caleb under center, play action. That's how you attack them, and you run the ball. You run the ball down their throats. I know that the Steelers don't have the rankings as some of the previous teams in previous years, but they still have T.J. Watt outside with 6 sacks. Alex Highsmith has 5.5 sacks, and Nick Herbig has 6.5 sacks. So they can get after the quarterback. I do not want this to be a game where we're seeing Caleb drop back 40 or 50 times in the contest, right? So control the ball. The Bears have a formula, guys. We've seen this, right? They control the ball, time of possession with the run game. They have a couple of splash plays here with the passing game, and defensively, they are not going to stop anybody, but they'll get the turnover. If the Bears get 2 or 3 turnovers and they control time of possession, the Bears will win the game. Now that's the key here is just get a couple of turnovers, make some timely stops, control the ball with running the ball. And DeAndre Swift has been a whole different type of DeAndre Swift this year, right? And obviously we talked about Common Line guy earlier in terms of that complement, control the ball. The offensive line, what it does best right now, it is run blocking. And I love when they do power concepts. Continue to do that, run the ball down the Steelers' throats, and then use some of that play action stuff to take your shots down the field, some big plays, put some points on the board, and let's get this victory and get out of there and be 8-3.
So let's look at this holistically, because I want to bring up the question of, is this home game against the Steelers a must win? And Aldo, if you have it, I'd like to cue up the schedule. There, Johnny on the spot there. So you got the Steelers at home this week, and then you got the Black Friday game at Philadelphia on a Friday, and then you're on the road against the Packers, and then you play the Browns, who have a very good defense. The offense leaves something to be desired. And then you got the Packers again at home. Is that a primetime game against the Niners? Great. The primetime game against the Niners on the road on the West Coast, and then you end the season at home against the Lions. Now, you may remember at the beginning of the season, I said I was going full fantasy mode here, and I said it's going to come down to Week 18, and Ben Johnson's going to beat the Lions at home for the Bears to make the playoffs. That's looking a little more tangible now. But when you look at this schedule, Alyssa and Danny, I'll get to your opinion after hers. Is this a must-win whenever you think about the games that are coming up? And I know it's hard to talk about a must-win when you're in sole possession of first place, but they're getting into a really difficult part of the schedule here. Do they have to win this game?
Yeah, no, I agree, because even last week's game against the Vikings, I consider must win because they were 0-2 in the division. They were tied for first place atop of the NFC North, and I felt like they really needed to get that monkey off their back and get that first division win there. And like you said, looking ahead, like that Eagles game, that's going to be rough. We saw what they did to the Lions. 2 games against the Packers. That Browns defense is nothing to scoff at. Prime time against the Niners, the Lions. I mean, that's quite a gauntlet there. So I feel like against the Steelers team, with Aaron Rodgers, who's beat up, out not in his prime anymore, I think that this is a must-win game. And obviously, we talked about the emotional aspect of beating Aaron Rodgers and changing that narrative. And this would also be the first win against a team with a winning records when they've played. So, I think this is a huge one, especially when you look at what they have coming up here at the end.
How much does this actually mean to them, Danny? Obviously, it's not a division opponent. It's not even an NFC opponent.
Right.
But they are in just a full-on brawl in the NFC North right now with the Packers and Lions. And obviously we saw that the Vikings can hold their own in divisional matchups as well. How much would it mean to get this game at home against the Steelers before you head out to Philadelphia on Black Friday and then you have to go to Lambeau after that?
Yeah, for me, it's not really a must win because it's not a conference, not a division game. It's not a conference game. Like Alyssa said, last week's game, Minnesota for me was a must win, and luckily they got that. Would you like to win this? Yes, just because of the fact of what's coming up on the schedule. Now, Philadelphia, Black Friday, that's going to be a tough game, right? And not because the Eagles scare me offensively, but defensively, adding Phillips there, he has really made a difference there. Obviously, Vic Fangio, what he does there. So that's going to be a tough game. And then obviously, then you got the Packers here, division-wise. Again, Green Bay doesn't really scare me at all either, to be honest with you. So it's a nice game. You're at home. Get this victory. Get it under your belt. Get the whole Aaron Rodgers mantra out of here. So I think that from that point, it's a game that the Bears should come out and should win. Is it a must-win because it's not in division and conference? I say no, but it's a game that I would love to have.
Alyssa, who would you like to see step up in this game, whether it's from the defensive side, the offensive side, or who needs to have a big game against the Steelers? Is it one of the receivers? Is it one of the running backs? Is it Montez Sweat or someone who's rushing the quarterback? Who needs to step up to put their stamp on this game?
Can I cheat and say the entire offense in the red zone, just because I keep coming back to that and how they need to capitalize on those opportunities, and I would love for it to start here against the Steelers. I feel like this is a game that they have a really good chance to win, and they should win, but you can't settle for field goals. It might be enough to win against teams with losing records, but I think the Steelers have the talent, and I think Chicago's going to need to give it all they can. But I mean, that's my cheat answer. But kind of thinking about it, I mean, I would like to see Montez Sweat or Austin Booker. I want to see more from this pass rush. And like Danny said, there are going to be opportunities to get after Aaron Rodgers. And in a game when you really want to sack him, you really want to make him hurt. You want that risk to be hurting even more. So I would love to see the Bears pass rush step up as well. I'd like to see Austin Booker get back in there, get a sack since his first game back. So, or a second sack since that first one he had coming back. So yeah.
Danny, we haven't really talked about it too much, but how are the Bears going to contain TJ Watt and the pass rush of the Steelers? Do they need to bring in more protection? We know Ben Johnson loves to bring in Ozzie Trapillo in as an extra blocker and go with that jumbo package. Do you think we see a lot of that, or are they going to do a lot of chipping? What do you think they do on the edges to try to keep Caleb upright?
We'll see that. We'll see the jumbo package. We'll see the 12 personnel. We'll see Ozzie there, as a tight end or tackle eligible player in there. We saw it against Minnesota. We saw a bunch of scenarios there a couple of weeks today in today's show where they had they had max protection there and had a couple guys in the routes. So for me, that's what you do. Whether you have the chip, Cole Kmet had a pretty damn good game blocking in that game against Minnesota. So that's something that kind of goes unnoticed or under the radar. But he continues to get better there. So for me, offensively, if you have elite pass rush on the outside, the best way to go at them or contain them is run at them. And we talked about the Bears being a physical team now with the offensive line. Run at TJ Watt, run at Alex Highsmith, run at these guys and trying to create that physicality up front, get them on their heels a little bit and then hit them with that play action and balls over their head. So for me, offensively last week, guys, we saw the reemergence or the introduction, I should say, of the tight end group. They had 12 targets last week, 9 receptions. I want to see that continue. We talked about some of the issues in the red zone. You have a tight end in Colson Loveland that's 6'6" with a huge catch radius. You have Cole Kmet is also a pretty good sized tight end there as well. Let's continue to use these tight ends as a threat there, especially in that red zone, and make those guys some primary targets there, and hopefully come away with some touchdowns. But physicality up front, pass rushers, run at them, neutralize their speed and their athletic ability by running at them and making them run defenders, and then utilizing under center Caleb play action and throw the ball over their heads.
Yeah, I love to see Cole Kmet with the ball in the open field. We talked about Washington being able to truck over people. Cole Kmet kind of does the same thing. He hurts.
Isn't a slouch either, my friend.
Oh yeah. They got guys that'll run you over and hurt you on the way through. The last thing I want to ask both of you guys here is, we're talking about the Bears are in sole possession of first place, and that's a great place to be, and we should enjoy it while it's here because we haven't had a lot of things to celebrate over this, 9 years of doing this show. And
where's the confetti?
Yeah, let's not get ahead of ourselves quite yet. And there it is. Of course he had it ready to go. Of course he had it ready to go because he loves doing this crap. But there's more. Great. But Bears fans, I think, are being cautiously optimistic when they look at this 7-3 record. They understand how the Bears have gotten there. They've had to pull out a lot of close wins, and they got some tough games coming up. So I'll ask you, and I'll start with Danny, and then I'll go to Alyssa, is when you look at this schedule, do you think there's a route to the division, or do you look at it and say there's a route to the playoffs? Because I think a lot of Bears fans are just thinking, you know what, get to that 10-win threshold and they'll get in. They'll get in somehow. If they have 10 wins, they'll get in, and that's a good playoff spot. Or are you, as you know, a lot of fans like to do, they start getting greedy once they start stacking those wins up and are like, oh, NFC North home playoff game. Okay, when you look at the schedule and you look at this team, what are you envisioning the route? Route to playoffs, route to division?
From right now, as of today, I'm looking at a route to the playoffs. However, if they split with the Lions and the Packers, of the four games that are, if they win the last game against the Lions and split with the Packers, I think there's a pretty good chance for them to get that division, right? Because I believe they have a game lead over the Lions. The Lions currently hold the tiebreaker because they won that week 2 matchup. So getting that last victory, John, you said it, that could be something where they could play for the division. But as of right now, the Bears to me are ahead of schedule, right? This is something that we just said, hey, we want to see Caleb get better. We want to see a competitive team. We want to see the culture change. We've seen all of that, right? There's still more strides for Caleb, for the offense, for obviously for the defense. As of right now, they are what they are, but they're getting better offensively. Defensively, I'm not sure how much better they can get. Getting back Jalen Johnson, T.J. Edwards, and Kyle Gordon will help. But we know the formula: ball possession, run the ball, make some turnovers, the Bears win. And if the one thing has become apparent for me is if the game is close within the last minute or 2 minutes of the game, the Bears will find a way to win the game. As opposed to previous years, under previous regimes, the Bears will find a way to lose the game under those regimes. This one, they're finding ways to win games. And I think that's what they got to do. So right now, I'm just looking at getting in the playoffs. That's a great first year for Ben Johnson, a great first year for establishing that culture and all that stuff. If you get the division, great, that's gravy. But, we know the Bears are a flawed team. They're not a perfect team. And I think this offseason we're going to see a lot of assets being put into that defensive side. But right now, I'm enjoying this ride because we have a coach that I feel confident saying that he knows what the hell he's doing out there. And we have a young quarterback that I feel like is getting better and better. There are come days in some games where, he frustrates you, but he's a young quarterback who's getting better, who's learning. And I think this is just going to be a team that over the years we're going to see continue to get better and better. The only thing we got to worry about is health.
Alyssa, I think most Bears fans, if you would have told them back in August that the Bears are going to be 7-3 and in first place in the middle of November, they said, sign me up any day of the week right now. I'll take that. So whenever we're looking at that, are you looking at route to playoffs or route to division when you look at this schedule? Because it's easy to say, well, win this one, win this one, win this one, this one, and all of a sudden you got yourself 11, 12 wins. But this is still a very tough division, and there's still a lot of tough games on the schedule. What are you anticipating, or what are you looking forward to as far as, hey, the division's in play, or hey, get in the playoffs?
Yeah, I think it's the playoffs at this point. I mean, the Bears are coming off a 5-win season. I feel like at this point, we're just happy to kind of be in first place for a minute and to enjoy the Bears being up there and to watch the rest of the NFC North fans just lose their minds. It's been fun. But, like Danny said, this team is ahead of schedule at this point. And, the thing is, like, when you look at what this team has accomplished with this 7-3 record, they haven't even played their best football yet. And it's incredible. It's just like really exciting to think, especially if they get Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon, TJ Edwards back. I think that defense will also get a boost as well. And Caleb Williams is continuing to grow in this offense. Ben Johnson knows what he's doing. It's really weird to have a head coach that knows what he's doing and is improving this team and this locker room culture. And it's really exciting. I mean, I'm enjoying that the Bears are in first place. Who knows if it only lasts this week or whatnot, but I would just be happy for, make the playoffs this season, use it as a sounding board, as a stepping stone to make real contention for the division next season, because the Bears just got their first NFC North win this week. So there are still 3 games there on the schedule, against one against the Lions and 2 against the Packers. So, but I'm just enjoying them. The fact that they have a positive percentage chance of getting into the playoffs, that would be quite the first season for Ben Johnson, potential NFL Coach of the Year candidate.
It's funny because now we see the playoff teams in the NFC. Bears are always like lurking, and that lurking,
in the hunt.
They're actually in the playoffs now. So that's a plus.
Yeah, and listen, I cannot emphasize this enough that traditionally when we do a show in mid to late November, we are talking about who are they going to draft, or we're going to talk about who's going to be playing quarterback next year, or we're going to be talking about who's going to be coaching the Bears. It's been like a broken record. It's cyclical. Whenever we talk about this in late November, the playoffs are just, that's not even a thought. So you got to start talking about the next year and what free agents are out there. And I think we did a whole show last year about what free agents they should sign, and that was in like late November or early December. So the fact that we are talking about them in first place and there's a route to the playoffs, I'm trying to enjoy every week because we don't get to talk about meaningful football very often in late November and going into December. And I've even said this last year and years before. I've been saying it for probably my whole adult life. I've always considered it. There's the Bears football season, and then there's the NFL season that I like to watch because I like to watch. I love playoff football, and I love the late season football because there's so much on the line. And I've never really got to pay attention to that as far as a Bears fan. I get to watch the Bears game and they lose and they go 4-12 or 4-13, whatever. And then I'm like, oh man, there's a big game tonight. And it's like there's two different leagues. There's the Bears season and then there's the rest of the NFL. Now those worlds have collided. The Bears are in the NFL season. They are playing with the big boys. They are in the hunt. They do have a route to the playoffs in late November. And I'm just trying to enjoy that as much as possible. So for me, I can't imagine the Bears in a playoff game right now. It's been a long time. It's been a very long time since we've seen that. And the last time it was whenever they fell backwards into that new 7 seed and they got smacked by the Saints and Mitch Trubisky won the MVP from Nickelodeon. That was the last time that they were in the playoffs. And you know what? That wasn't that fun. So that now they're putting something together where we have confidence in the head coach. They have confidence in the quarterback. They have confidence in the culture. And it's just it's a fun time to be a Bears fan. So I'm just going to enjoy that ride as much as possible.
Just put in more perspective. A week from Thursday is Thanksgiving. Guys, remember what happened last Thanksgiving?
Oh, the clock management game with Matt Eberflus?
Yes, to show you the two worlds we were in from last year to this year.
Yeah, it's night and day that we actually have confidence in a coaching staff as opposed to, oh, please just don't screw this up. And whenever I'm thinking, how are you not doing this or how are you not doing that? Or, hey, your cornerback is ordering a hot dog in the second row of the stadium in Washington, D.C. while there's a Hail Mary up in the air. You didn't want to call a timeout. Oh, he has to throw it 70 yards. You better put a QB spy on that. That's a good idea. And so it's just night and day whenever you look at this team this year and the team last year. So let's go around the horn before we get out of here. Alyssa, what are you working on? What's going on at Bears Wire? Probably 13, 14 articles just out today, but what can we look forward to?
Yeah, as always, we're getting you ready for Sunday's game against the Steelers. We got plenty of preview coverage and all the quotes coming out of Hallis Hall. So be sure to check us out, Bears Wire, before, during, and after the game for all of the latest. And hopefully we'll be breaking down an 8-3 Bears team.
Oh, let's hope so. And Danny, college football is coming to its boiling point as far as the playoff picture. Right what are you paying attention to? I assume the big game between North Texas and Rice is what you're going to be keyed in on this weekend.
I'm glued to it. I'm going to watch that. But no, I mean, college football is insane, right? We got coaches being fired. We got coaches being hired from other schools. We got coaches being recruited and wine and dine while he's still coaching a team that's going to the playoffs. It's insane. But in terms of Shimon Draft Scout, we are keeping our eyes focused on potential draft picks come April for the Bears. We talked about some of the positions already that they could look at. Defense line is definitely one. Defensive cornerbacks, that's going to be the next position group here that I'm going to be posting here real soon in terms of my top 10 defensive cornerbacks going into next April. Obviously, things can change, so on and so forth. But this already coming into this year. This was supposed to be a great quarterback class. Slowly but surely, there's a lot of people like saying, I don't know about this quarterback. That's why you saw the Jets when they made their big trades, got a lot of picks for this year and next year's draft because just a lot of these quarterbacks that were supposed to be going top of the class here, top of the draft, or some teams are now like kind of saying, maybe we'll wait another year here.
Yeah, that quarterback class that we thought we were going to have 5 or 6 first rounders might have what, 1, 2?
Well, I mean, if the top guy we're talking about is Mendoza, who's basically a younger, taller Kirk Cousins going number 1, that good luck with that. I mean, that's not something that I would be, trying to shoot for, but we'll see what happens.
What a ringing endorsement that is. A taller Kirk Cousins. So that's good.
Younger too. He's younger too.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope he's not a 35-year-old senior, but
No Stetson Bennett.
we've seen stranger things. Who was the quarterback that played for the Browns? Took him. I think it was Oklahoma State. He was a baseball player, and then he ended up getting drafted like 29 years old. I can't.
Oh my God, yes. Oklahoma State. You're right.
I am never going to remember him at this point. I can't believe
I know what you're talking about.
I do remember Chris Winkie coming out of Florida State. He was also like 29 years old. He got drafted by the Cardinals. I'm just trying to waste time until I can try to think about who this guy was that got drafted by the Browns.
He was 29 years old out of Oklahoma State. Was a dual sports star.
You are a professional team. Act like one, for God's sakes.
Danny, kill some time while I look for this.
Yeah, no pressure here, but yeah, I mean, in terms of the draft coming up, we'll see what happens, but definitely the left tackle is the position we're looking at here coming up. Whether it's in the offseason as a veteran, most likely be in the draft, but also look for a lot of influx on a defensive line and secondary help next year.
Big shout out to Steve there, Brandon Whedon. That's who it was.
There it is.
Oh, that's right.
That saved. That was gonna bug me if we would have talked about it offline, and then we wouldn't have said it during the show. I've been really ticked off. So I appreciate it. Well, if you had it on your bingo card that we were going to end on a Brandon Whedon reference, I think you won everything. So we appreciate that. So that'll round it up for this edition of Buffone 55. We appreciate each and every one of you tuning in, whether it's your first time, your 55th time, the podcast version, the live version, video, audio, whether you're watching on YouTube, StreamYard, Twitter, Facebook, ColecoVision, Nintendo, Atari, whatever you're watching on. If you somehow got a screen on your creepy crawler machine that you got back in 1994, we appreciate that. Either way, make sure you like and subscribe to everything on all the socials. A big shout out to Aldo running the controls in the background with those killer graphics, the killer sound bites, and everything that he does to make this show look the way that it does. But that'll do it for this edition of Buffone 55. For Alyssa Barbieri and Danny Shimon, I'm John Buffone. We'll see you next time.